Have you ever noticed the way your Chihuahua watches you leave? Not just looks, watches. As if every small movement in the room suddenly means something. The sound of your keys, the way you reach for your bag, the shoes by the door, the jacket on your arm. Even the way your voice changes when you say, "I'll be back soon." And then, you look down. Your Chihuahua is standing there, still, quiet, their little face turned toward you, their eyes following every step. Maybe they don't bark, maybe they don't cry, maybe they don't even move. But something about the way they watch you makes your heart pause for a second. Because it doesn't feel like ordinary watching. It feels like they know. They know the room is about to change. They know the door is about to close. They know the sound of your footsteps is about to disappear. And maybe the hardest part is not the moment you leave. Maybe the hardest part is what happens after. Because once the door closes, some Chihuahuas do not simply turn around and relax. They wait. They listen. They stay alert. They may lie down but not fully rest. They may sit near the door, watching the space where you disappeared. They may ignore their toy, ignore their food, ignore the quiet comfort of the home around them. And if you have ever seen this in your own Chihuahua, you may have wondered something very tender. Why does leaving feel so big to such a tiny dog? The answer may not be as simple as sadness, and it may not mean your Chihuahua is being dramatic, spoiled, or trying to make you feel guilty. One possible explanation is much softer than that. Your Chihuahua may be responding to a pattern, a routine, a change in the emotional temperature of the home. And once they recognize that pattern, their little body may begin preparing for your absence before you are even gone. So if your Chihuahua watches you leave, and then seems unable to relax after, stay with me. Because by the end of this video, you may never look at that quiet little face by the door the same way again. In the last video, we talked about why your Chihuahua follows you from room to room, the bathroom, the kitchen, the hallway, even those tiny steps behind you when you only get up for a glass of water. And we talked about how that little shadow beside your feet may not simply be clingy behavior. It may be a search for closeness, a search for comfort, a way of staying near the person who makes the world feel safe. But today, we are looking at the other side of that same bond, the harder side. Because there is a moment when your Chihuahua cannot follow you anymore. They may follow you to the door. They may stand behind your heels. They may look up as you reach for the handle. But then, the door opens. You step outside, and they have to stay behind. For us, this can feel like a normal part of life. We leave for work. We go to the store. We visit family. We run errands. We know we are coming back. But your Chihuahua may not understand the day the way you do. They may not understand your calendar, your schedule, the difference between 10 minutes and 4 hours. What they may understand instead are patterns. The jacket means something. The keys mean something. The shoes mean something. The sound of the door means something. And over time, those little signals can become part of a much bigger emotional routine. This is why the moment before you leave can matter so much. Because your Chihuahua may not be reacting only to your absence. They may be reacting to the beginning of absence, the quiet shift in the room, the change in your energy, the feeling that something familiar is about to disappear. And that is why this behavior can touch owners so deeply. Because when a Chihuahua watches you leave, it does not always feel like simple observation. It can feel like a question, a tiny, silent question at the door. Are you going somewhere I can't follow? And while we can never know exactly what a dog is thinking, we can look at the behavior, we can look at the patterns, and we can understand this moment with more gentleness. Not with guilt, not with fear, but with compassion. Because sometimes, the hardest part for a Chihuahua is not loving you. It is learning how to feel safe when the person they love walks out of sight. Your Chihuahua may not understand the sentence, "I'm going out for a while." They may not understand work, or errands, or appointments. They may not know whether you will be gone for 10 minutes or 4 hours, but they may understand something much simpler and much more powerful. Patterns. The same little things that happen before you leave. The keys in your hand, the shoes by the door, the bag on your shoulder, the jacket you always wear, the way you move a little faster, the way your voice changes when you are getting ready. To us, These are ordinary actions. We are just preparing for the day. But to a Chihuahua who watches closely, these small signals may begin to mean something. Keys may mean movement. Shoes may mean distance. A bag may mean the door. And the door may mean quiet. This does not mean your Chihuahua understands leaving the way a person does. It does not mean they know your schedule. It does not mean they are trying to make you feel guilty. It simply means they may have learned, through repetition, that certain signs often come before your absence. And once they recognize those signs, their body may begin reacting before you are even gone. That is why some Chihuahuas stand up the moment you reach for your shoes, or follow you when you pick up your keys, or stare at the door before you have touched the handle. Because for them, the leaving may not begin when the door closes. It may begin much earlier, with the first small sign that the room is about to change. Your presence fills the home in ways you may not notice. Your footsteps, your voice, your scent, your movement from room to room. And when that familiar rhythm suddenly shifts, your Chihuahua may feel the change. Not because they are being dramatic, not because they are trying to control you, but because they have been paying attention, quietly, every day. So when your Chihuahua watches you prepare to leave, they may not be guessing. They may be reading the routine. The goodbye may not start at the door. It may start with the smallest signal you never realized they had learned. Many owners see their Chihuahua standing quietly by the door and think, well, at least they are not barking. Or, maybe they are fine. And sometimes, they are. Sometimes a Chihuahua really is just watching you leave with calm curiosity. But not always, because stillness does not always mean relaxation. A Chihuahua can be quiet and still be tense. They can stand still and still be waiting. They can look peaceful from the outside, while their little body is staying alert to every sound you make. The keys, the latch, your footsteps, the final click of the door. This is why watching can be easy to misunderstand, because worry does not always look loud. It does not always look like barking, scratching, or crying. Sometimes, it looks like a tiny dog standing in one place, unable to settle. Maybe your Chihuahua watches every movement you make. Maybe they do not turn away. Maybe they refuse the treat you left behind. Maybe they walk from the door to the window, then back to the door again. Maybe they lie down, but their eyes stay open. Their ears still lift at every sound. Their body is resting, but their attention is not. And this can tell us something important. Your Chihuahua may not be relaxed just because they are quiet. They may be trying to understand what is happening. They may be waiting for the next familiar sound. Your voice, your keys returning, your footsteps outside the door. The sound that tells them the pattern is finally complete. This does not mean every Chihuahua who watches the door has a serious problem. And it does not mean you should panic. But it does mean the behavior is worth noticing with gentleness. Because many sensitive dogs show discomfort in small ways before they show it in big ways. A still body, a fixed stare, a refusal to eat, a restless walk between rooms. A little dog who cannot fully let go. And when we see those small signs, we begin to understand the behavior more clearly. Your Chihuahua may not be giving you a dramatic goodbye. They may be showing you a quiet kind of uncertainty. And sometimes, the quietest Chihuahua in the room is the one working the hardest to feel safe. To us, a door is just a door. We open it, we close it, we walk through it without thinking very much. It is part of daily life, a simple object between one room and another, between home and outside, between leaving and returning. But to your Chihuahua, that door may feel much bigger, because when you step through it, the world changes. Your voice disappears, your footsteps fade, your scent becomes still instead of moving through the room. The familiar shape of you is no longer there. And for a little dog who finds comfort in your presence, that closed door may become more than wood, glass, or metal. It may become a border. On one side, there is you, your warmth, your movement, your hand reaching down, your chair shifting, your quiet sounds in the kitchen, the life of the home. And on the other side, there is silence. A hallway without your footsteps, a room without your voice, a space where your Chihuahua can still remember you, but cannot reach you. This does not mean your Chihuahua understands the door the way we do. They may not know where you are going, They may not know why you left. They may not know how long the quiet will last. But they may understand the emotional pattern. When the door closes, access to you ends. And that can make the door feel important. This is why some Chihuahuas stay near it, or sit facing it, or keep checking it, even after you have been gone for a while. They may not be waiting dramatically. They may simply be staying close to the place where the familiar world changed, the place where your presence disappeared, the place where it may return. And that is what makes this moment so powerful. Because for us, leaving can feel ordinary. But for a Chihuahua watching from inside the home, the door may become the line between comfort and uncertainty, between the world they know and the quiet they do not fully understand. So when your Chihuahua watches the door after you leave, they may not be staring at an object. They may be watching the border where their safe world last stood. Chihuahuas are small dogs, but their emotional presence in a home can feel enormous. They sit close, they watch closely. They learn the rhythm of your day in a way that can surprise you. The sound of your chair, the way you open a drawer, the hour you usually make coffee, the moment you sit down and become still. Many Chihuahua owners notice this. Their little dog does not just live in the home. They seem to study it, especially you. And because Chihuahuas often spend so much time physically close to their people, being held, sitting in a lap, sleeping nearby, following from room to room, your presence may become one of the strongest signals of safety in their world. Your voice may settle them. Your touch may comfort them. Your movement may tell them the day is normal. So when you leave, the change may feel bigger than we realize. Not because your Chihuahua is weak, not because they are spoiled, and not because they are trying to control you, but because the world they know is built around very close connection. For a tiny dog, the home can be full of things that feel large. Loud sounds, fast movements, visitors, doors, weather, other animals, even small changes in routine. And when their trusted person is nearby, those things may feel easier to handle. But when that person walks out of sight, the quiet can become harder to settle into. This does not mean every Chihuahua struggles with being alone. Some adjust very well. Some nap peacefully. Some feel secure with a familiar routine. But for many sensitive Chihuahuas, separation may feel intense because closeness has become such a meaningful part of daily life. You are not just the person who feeds them. You may be the warm place on the couch, the familiar voice in the room, the hand that reaches down, the lap that makes the world feel smaller. And maybe that is why leaving can feel so big to them. Because when you are their safe place, your absence may be felt in every quiet corner of the home. But the real reason they can't relax may not be sadness alone. It may be something even deeper: uncertainty. After you leave, the house may look the same. The couch is still there. The blanket is still there. The water bowl is still there. The little bed in the corner has not moved. But to your Chihuahua, something important has changed. The person who gives the home its familiar rhythm is gone. And when that rhythm disappears, some Chihuahuas may not know how to fully settle. They may sit near the door. They may listen for sounds outside. They may lift their head at every car, every footstep, every small noise in the hallway. Not because they understand time the way we do, but because they may be waiting for the pattern to complete. You leave. The room becomes quiet. Then, eventually, you return. And until that final part happens, their little body may remain alert. This may be one reason your Chihuahua cannot relax after you leave. They may not simply be missing you. They may be waiting for the world to make sense again, for your voice to come back, for your footsteps to return, for the door to open, for the home to feel complete. And there is something deeply touching about that, because your Chihuahua may not measure love in hours, or calendars, or clocks. They may measure it in familiar sounds, in returning footsteps, in the moment the door opens, and the world becomes whole again. Now, this part is important, because when we see our Chihuahua watching us leave, many of us do something very human. We make the goodbye bigger. We bend down. We use a softer voice. We say, "I'm sorry." We explain. We promise. We touch their little face one more time. And we do this because we love them, not because we are doing something wrong. But sometimes, for a very sensitive Chihuahua, a long, emotional goodbye may make the moment feel heavier. It may teach them that leaving is not just a normal part of the day. It is something serious, something sad, something to worry about. So instead of making every departure feel like a heartbreak, it may help to keep the routine calm, gentle, simple, predictable, a quiet phrase, a familiar place, a peaceful exit. No rushing, no panic, no dramatic goodbye at the door. This does not mean being cold, and it does not mean ignoring your Chihuahua's feelings. It means showing them, through your own calm behavior, that this moment is safe, that the door closing does not mean the world is ending, that quiet can still be okay. And if your Chihuahua becomes extremely distressed, if they hurt themselves, panic for long periods, refuse food for a concerning amount of time, or if this behavior appears suddenly or severely, then speaking with a veterinarian or a qualified behavior professional may be appropriate. Because love is not only staying close. Sometimes, love is helping them feel safe, even when you step away. Helping your Chihuahua feel safe does not always mean holding them tighter. Sometimes, it means making the world feel more predictable. A small routine can matter. The same calm phrase before you leave, the same comfortable spot, the same blanket, a familiar toy, a quiet room where they do not feel overwhelmed by every outside sound. For some Chihuahuas, even something simple can help. A soft bed near a safe corner, a piece of clothing that carries your scent, gentle background sound, a window covered enough so they are not constantly watching every movement outside. Not every dog needs the same thing, and not every Chihuahua reacts the same way. But many sensitive dogs feel better when the leaving routine becomes boring, calm, repeated, easy to understand. Because safety is not always created by excitement. Sometimes, safety is created by consistency, by showing them, again and again, that you can leave peacefully, and the home can remain peaceful too, that the door can close, and nothing terrible happens, that quiet moments can still be safe moments. And when you return, you can greet them with warmth, but not chaos. You can be loving without turning the return into a storm. Because over time, your calmness may become part of the pattern too. A signal that says, this is normal, you are safe, and I always come back. So if your Chihuahua has a special place where they wait for you, by the door, by the window, on your chair, or curled up on your bed, tell me in the comments, where does your little one wait? And what is their name? Because sometimes, these tiny habits tell us just how deeply our dogs build their world around us. So the next time your Chihuahua watches you leave, pause for just a moment. Not with guilt, not with sadness, but with understanding. That little face by the door may not be trying to break your heart. They may not be trying to make you stay. They may not be trying to control where you go. They may simply be trying to understand a difficult moment. The person who makes the home feel familiar is stepping out of sight. The voice they know best is becoming quiet. The footsteps they follow are fading away, and the door is closing between them and the world they trust. That is not something to fear, but it is something to notice gently. Because when we understand this behavior, we stop seeing it as neediness. We stop seeing it as drama, and we begin to see it as connection. A small dog, a quiet room, a familiar door, and a bond that continues, even when you are not standing beside them. Your Chihuahua may not need a dramatic goodbye. They may need your calm, your patience, your steady routine, your quiet reminder that leaving is not the end of safety. And when you return, that little face at the door may be telling a simple story, not with words, but with their whole body. You came back, and maybe that is one of the softest parts of loving a Chihuahua. They teach us that ordinary moments are not ordinary to them. A door closing, a key turning, a voice returning, a lap becoming warm again. To us, it is daily life. To them, it may be the rhythm of love. So if your Chihuahua watches you leave, or waits for you by the door, write their name in the comments. Tell me where they wait. By the window? On your chair? Near your shoes? And if this video helped you understand your little dog in a gentler way, stay with us. Because in the next video, we will talk about another quiet Chihuahua behavior many owners misunderstand. A behavior that may look small from the outside, but may mean much more inside their little world.